Hello, good morning. This is the Black Anthropy radio show where our mission is to shine a light on people, nonprofit organizations, and entrepreneurs who are impacting the lives of individuals, families, and the community by providing knowledge, resources, and opportunities. And this morning we have someone who I'm very excited to talk to. Her name is Miss Belinda Dawson. She is the Housing Project Coordinator for uh, Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries. Good morning, Belinda.
Good morning, Coffee. How are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, you all are doing right in the trench of a major national issue that's going on in the news. And the issues before the Supreme Court. They were deciding this last week. Surprisingly, they were surprised at the some of the cities are doing to homeless people.
Absolutely.
I couldn't even believe the Supreme Court justices were like, and so what are you going to do with the people if you put them out? And so Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries has a housing program that you all are helping people here in Cleveland that are unhoused. The first thing, though, tell us about Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries.
Okay, so Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry is a faith-inspired organization. We seek to enhance lives and empower people facing homelessness. We are the largest men's shelter in Ohio, and we work with our staff and our partners work on and off-site to provide services to help clients kind of get back on their feet, if you will.
Okay. And so what kind of services do you all provide in addition to like housing?
So we offer, we have several programs, but we are housing and shelter. We, connect individuals to services to, get birth certificates, IDs, social security cards and things like that, other resources, maybe food stamps, again, housing, connect them to resources for medical attention and things like that.
Okay. And so as the housing project coordinator, what do you do?
So I am responsible for overseeing our family project initiatives that we have, such as our Transition in Place, our Breaking New Ground housing initiative, and our shared housing model that we have currently going on.
And so tell me about the Transition in Place model that you all have. How did you all come up with that? And what is that? What is the mission or the aim of that program?
Okay, so the Transition in Place, we master lease a unit from an owner with the intention of subleasing to a tenant. This helps anyone, a family or an individual, move out of the shelter to the unit until their subsidy kicks in or they are able to self-pay. So it kind of just helps speed up the process of getting out the shelter. Just things can take time. So with this model, we are able to, have someone move into a unit. They can, be out of the shelter and then also work to get back on their feet and to get things that they need to get in order to, sustain the exit from homelessness and maintain their house.
And again, it's interesting because I would never have really thought of a model that worked like that. I just think of if you're homeless or if you live in a shelter and then you go someplace. I didn't realize the master lease was in place there to help people do that. And kind of my thinking on it is one reason people did that is because, for one, the shelters are just overcrowded.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Talk about that. The shelters are just overcrowded, and everyone. What you talk about it because you're the expert on it.
So yeah, the shelters are very much overcrowded. There is a lack of affordable housing. The causes of homelessness, of poverty, structural racism, and lack of affordable housing is kind of where we are right now. So without there being, opportunities for those to find work and be able to get a home, then you have people that are being, kind of evicted from their units, and that is increasing because of the difference in income as well as affordable. Everything is inflated, and the cost of living is gone up. So it is just very staggering to see the numbers kind of since COVID even just increase over these last couple of months for sure.
And then the people who have become homeless, it's not what, like people would have thought like 20, 30 years ago when you see, people just hanging out downtown or whatever.
Absolutely.
A lot of people who probably didn't expect, working class people have become homeless.
Yes. You hear the stories from people, just fell on hard times. They cut back hours, or, they weren't seen as a necessity at their job, so they lost their job, and with no income, you can't pay rent and can't pay utilities. And so now you have this kind of switch where really anyone can enter into homelessness. We are all a situation away from being homeless ourselves, and so to have these stories and understand that there are families who, or individuals who are experiencing this, it is a little frustrating because we haven't really figured out how can we really, adjust or work with the increasing or high cost rent and jobs that are laying off, or not making income not matching what it should to be able to stay in the unit.
Oh, I can imagine it's hard to do when, first of all, it's only so big your organization can be,
Right.
and with so many homeless people that need to be serviced, where do you find the time to try to put together a plan to
Right.
even do all of that, So, it's always interesting when you hear about stuff, but then when you talk to someone who's actually doing the work, it's like, it gives a completely different perspective on what the situation actually is.
Yes. Very eye-opening. I know that there is a stigma around homelessness, and people have their perception of what homelessness is, but I say homelessness has no face really. It's just something that can happen to anyone. It obviously is unfortunate, but the things and the barriers that some people face to get into housing can also be a challenge. And so that, when you have an eviction on your record, that is something that's another barrier that you then have to withstand. So, you think about the people that are going through this or experiencing this, and then something like that happens. It's another wrench in their plan to kind of exit it. It just makes it a little harder to exit, homelessness.
Talk about your shared housing program.
Okay, so our shared housing is a model where we have each member is we secure a unit. We have each tenant has their own lease, their own bedroom, and then they share a common area.
And what's in the common area?
The common area, your kitchen, your living space, shared bathroom, but to put it in place to be able to, kind of adjust, make the adjustment to be able to afford housing. So it kind of gets you out of, maybe a shelter or out of your car, and you are able to live in a unit, essentially with roommates, but it helps keep the cost down, and then the rent is split between all of the members in the house.
Okay. And then talk about your Breaking New Ground initiative.
Okay, so our Breaking New Ground initiative is a program where we work with the Cuyahoga County Land Bank to secure units, renovate them as needed, and we are able to then help families move into the unit, and they're all located in our normal our operating area, which is in the St. Clair Superior area, and we offer support and services where they need. We work with our partners to kind of assist the families with the things that they need, work with their case managers, and kind of help them out with that. So I think right now we have 8 families that we currently have housed, that we helped exit homelessness from even before my time. I think we started with 3, and we're growing. We're getting ready to open more units, and it just kind of, it helps a family because we don't set those barriers, your criminal background, credit scores. We're not really looking at that. We want to be able to give a family another opportunity.
Right. And so a couple of things that is common to all of the programs that you all have is the relationship that you all have to establish with the landlord. And again, that's where, your organization, Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries, becomes very important. Because like you say, if people have something on their record, they're already homeless, if they're living in their car, how do they have, referrals, and, where they're coming from, and all of these other things. So talk about what you all do to establish the relationship with the landlord, and how that relationship has allowed you all to do what you do.
So even like with our master leasing program, we go out into the community, we're working with these landlords, we're telling them about the programs that we offer, kind of, offering them a little bit of support and reassurance along the way. Because we are going to support our people that we put in there. We want them to be able to feel comfortable to call us if there's an issue, so that we can kind of work and keep a person in a unit. So really it's about relationship building and building a rapport, and letting them know that they can trust us, and we are here to support them, and our constant appreciation for working with our guys. And that's how we keep that, finding units is really just word of mouth. I've worked with this organization, they do good work. You should work with them too. And then we can kind of keep working with the different landlords to be able to house people that have, challenges in their life, or barriers that have kept them from moving into a unit, through our relationship building.
Okay, and so then another thing that's common to all the three programs that you all have is helping people get these things that you don't even really realize you need. Absolutely. And again, like a person like me, at this point in my life, as of this morning, I'm not homeless, and so how does all of these things that you all have to help people get a driver's license, or some kind of state identification, birth certificates? How do you all go about doing those things? And then you all have a process or in place where you all have relationships again with different cities, state, local agencies, so that it's easier for you all to have a contact to say this person needs this, this, or this. Talk about these different records and things that people have to go and get that you may not even realize you need to get when you're homeless and trying to transition to finding some place to stay.
Absolutely. The things that you need. Some people come in, they don't have a birth certificate or an ID, things that you need to really be able to kind of do anything. You can come into our shelter, and we have coordinators that also work with, our partners in the continuum of care, who kind of work with us to obtain the things that they need, or sign them up for things that they may need to kind of go to that next step, whatever that be, because everyone's journey is obviously different. Yeah. And so we work to gather all of that while they're in the shelter, so that once they start their process, they are able to kind of, it's a quick moving thing. So we're doing that, where maybe if you need treatment of any kind, we're linking you with that. We're linking you to the partners that we know that are out here doing the work. We're connecting you to those resources to help you get back on your feet. And it's the same thing with our landlords. It's your relationship building. We're all in this to do the same work. So it does make that easier. And with our doors being open, they can come in and meet with our guys, and meet them where they're at, help them right then and there on the spot. And so that kind of helps with, trying to go to 4 or 5 different agencies. When you work together like that, it kind of makes the process a little less daunting for anyone going through it.
Another part of this, again, that you're homeless, you're trying to make a transition. This is a new experience that probably people are going through. Maybe people need all kind of different resources. This paperwork is one thing. Talk about this. Not only do you need the paperwork, you got to fill out paperwork to get the paperwork.
Yes, right. To even be considered.
Yeah, you got to fill it out. So because I can imagine I do stuff and I'm not even overwhelmed. I've learned over the years, especially when I'm dealing with government at any level, federal, state, or local, I take the utmost patience with me. I don't try to plan something after it, because it rattles you.
Yeah.
You've got to fill out all of this paperwork and do. I went to the hospital a couple of weeks ago, and my goodness, Then they were like, stand right there, click to, it's like, okay, wait a minute, what y'all doing? You know, it's like, wow. You know, and so I can't even imagine already having, you know, this new space of being homeless, or even being homeless, trying to make a transition, needing all of this stuff, and then I got to fill out all of this paperwork.
All of this paperwork.
Talk about the importance of, that's something that you all, again, ease that burden and responsibility for people. Talk about that.
So, you know, again, it can be very overwhelming. Just a lot of words, asking for all this different information, you know, so much being thrown at a person already going through something, you know, facing their own traumas. When they get this paperwork and it's asking you for this and this and this and what's this, and you know, you're going and dealing with what you're going through, it's kind of hard to really process. It can be very cumbersome, the paperwork. You know, you might even get paperwork where it's asking for things that you might not need, but that's just how the paperwork is put together. And so we do a really good job of, you know, we read through the applications and familiarize ourselves with the different paperwork that are involved. So that way we can kind of walk them through the process and help them where they need. You know, you are going to come across some people who may not have had the opportunity to learn how to read and have a difficult time understanding, you know, what it is that they're signing. So we try to help them out there and, you know, explain this paperwork, maybe, you know, quiet a little bit of those worries and those fears of, what am I signing? You know, I've already been through some things. Maybe I'm from out of state. I don't know, you know, what I'm signing here. What is this for? So we do a really good job of trying to, you know, always work with our partners to whatever forms they need, you know, having an understanding, maybe even having someone come in and explain their paperwork, walk us through it. But then that way we are able to kind of share that information. I have gotten applications for housing and I've been overwhelmed. Yeah. So I can only imagine, you know, what some of our participants feel when they read it, you know, and it's 20 pages, but you only have to fill out 15. And it can be just, you know, I understand the importance of it. I totally get that part of it, but I think it can just, you know, we do our best to make it simpler for our participants. And I think that is why they are able to, you know, kind of have this process move along, because you're also facing deadlines and time frames of how this paperwork can, you know, it has to be completed by, and where does it have to go, and maybe, you know, people aren't really tech savvy. So we kind of help with that part of it too, where you have to do it online, and you only have one shot to really get all of that paperwork submitted. We do a good job of, you know, making that time for each of our participants to help them get through it. And our familiarity with the paperwork kind of does speed that process up, so we can help more people. Whereas if we just, hey, you go do this paperwork and we'll come back and check it, you know, this way we are able to kind of, again, move that process along and help people get out of shelters, which is really important.
And the one reason when I, you know, talk with you and, you know, even saw that you all help people with paperwork, that's how a lot of things don't get done. That's how a lot of people don't do things, because we live in this very fast-paced right now moment right now. And I mean, you fill out paperwork and then it's like you don't have the answer, you don't know it, and you just put that paperwork to the side, and they will not process your paperwork until you get that one response.
Correct.
Let alone 3 or 4 or 5 things, you know. Well, you're listening to the Black Anthropy Radio Show, and today our guest is Miss Belinda Dawson, Housing Project Coordinator with Cleveland's Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries, providing housing and shelter in the East Cleveland area and the Superior, St. Clair neighborhoods areas. One thing I like that you all do too, you all don't just stop there. I mean, these are some really big things to me that you all do. You all sign a lease for people, right? And then until the person's gotten all that paperwork in order and they're able to be able to pay the rent on their own. The other thing that you all do is you all help people find employment, and you all have educational courses and so forth for people. So talk about the importance again of having that, right? Because again, what's a homeless person now? Who ends up in that demographic? has changed.
Absolutely.
And so more people had the capacity to understand that, be able to embrace, okay, getting in a program, and again, transitioning to the next phase, getting a job, getting their health care together, and saving. So talk about the different programs that you all have in place to help people understand housing.
So again, working especially inside of our shelter, we have coordinators who work to have what we call Super Provider Day. We have that once a month, and we have people come in that have housing opportunities, offers different services as far as mental health services, benefit specialists, and things like that. Help people get signed up for, like I said, food benefits, maybe even doctors, and I think in conjunction with that, we have what we call our we have people come in and we kind of do like a job fair with the guys, because having income to for these landlords, that's a big deal. They're asking 3 times the rent, or if can you provide proof of income or employment. So we work with other agencies to kind of help people find work, as well as we offer services, or we offer our assistance where needed. Maybe they need to send information over, they need to talk to someone, we can be a good resource for them. So I think between our Provider Day and our job fair that we're working on putting in place for this year, I think those are resources that help everyone to kind of get things back on their feet. Again, it's hard for people to get around, and you have to go here and here and here. We bring all of that to the shelter, and then it's come in the cafeteria, talk to someone, see how easy this is, how it can benefit you. And I think those it gives the guys hope. Okay, I can get a job, I can get this, and I can work with you guys and kind of start my process to getting out of here. Because of those that we work with that have lived experience, even that has been an asset for our guys, where it's like, okay, so I can get out of this. There's hope for me, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I can have the barriers that I have now, and then I can change it all around. And it just it does. We say it gets better, and it's so cliche, but it is very true. It does get better, it just takes a little bit of work. And so through the different partnerships that we have, we are able to kind of bridge that gap a little bit for them.
Yeah, and again, just listening to the model that you all have is is very interesting, that people don't think of all of these components, because you all really take it one step at a time. And really getting the person out of shelter, out of shelters, out of their car, or whatever the case may be, because they keep adding on to this list of what's a violation of a city ordinance.
Yes.
Living in tents in a parking lot, or using the bathroom, or spitting on the street, just all of this food, brushing your teeth on the street, just all of this foolishness. But you all, take it that one step at a time. And I mean, that's a big burden to me that's relieved on a person, when they don't have to worry about coming up with the money, where they work, and all this other stuff. They can just easily transition to someplace and then work on getting their paperwork and everything together. Then they can, take a breath, and then you all provide these other services for them to say, okay, I can start working, I can start doing this, and to have your own space, when you come indoors, or where, whatever you do, knowing you have that roof over your head, and that, you'll be able to have some peace and quiet to yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sure that is so important. Then, to be able to mix and mingle with other people too, though. Because I can imagine some fear and anxiety if I was homeless and all these other things, and I wasn't around other similarly situated people. And it doesn't make you, I think a lot of stigma for it, a lot of things are going away, because so many people are impacted by so many other bad things.
Yes, absolutely. And so, I'll definitely say, in talking to a lot of our guys, it can be a trauma. It can be just an incident that really does change your life. Life can really change in an instant. And you're right, in the shelter there's a safety in that. You know, I have support. A lot of people don't have support, and that's the difference. You know, because of the support I have, I'm able to, you know, have a home and have family and people. So we are that to those that we service. We offer support and encouragement when you're going through this process, because it can be a lot, and depending on what you're coming from, your journey, it's what, you know, we like to take that off of you. So we're following up on your paperwork. We're inquiring what's the next steps. What, you know, what more does someone need? Because like I said, you know, sometimes people lose their phones, don't have a phone, come in with absolutely nothing, and there's no way for them to kind of keep that going and do the check-ins that they need. But you know, when we're working with them, we're able to say, well, you can reach out to me. I can answer some questions. I can make sure I schedule time with them, because we do want to change the stigma that it is not just, you know, lazy. I don't want to work. I just want to sit in here. You know, our guys they're very resourceful. They're very resilient. Same with our families. They have not gotten this far without being able to make it. So we have some really
and people
smart
don't think about that.
They absolutely
and
don't.
Like people, I know a lot of people say people won't work on these jobs, and it's like, when was the last time you did a job where you worked 8 hours on your feet for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years? And people don't even think about those things. They just hear this stuff, and like you say, it's demonizing people, and it's like, think about it.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 or 3 children, X number of children. There's other life events that happen to people. And then most people, especially in the last 5 years, if not even the last 10, 15 years, a lot of people that work these jobs where they're on their feet all day, they work 2 jobs.
Yep, they sure
do.
They
work 3 jobs.
Sure do.
And still have to take care of children.
Yes.
And like I said, most people, they don't think that, because you have your nice, you know, middle class lifestyle. You know, you think like, oh, these people are just, you know, filling in a blank or whatever. And it's like, we are all worn down from being overworked, burned out, and all of this other stuff. And so I can see how, you know, like I say, the value of Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries, because I mean, when you're going through all of it, it is so overwhelming.
Absolutely.
And so the other part of that is you all bring in people, specialists, experts once a month to help people with whether it's health or employment or education. Talk about also helping people with that transition too, if they're ready to own their own home, and or, you know, move on to where they're not sharing a space with common space with other people.
So we work with our people, and you know, we try to meet them where they are at, and we do that by, you know, listening. What is it that you need? Because maybe some are more able than others, and we kind of let them take the lead. And where we can, we connect them to, you know, classes or trainings that may be able to help them on their journey to, you know, maybe take ownership, you know, look into home ownership, even in dealing with other agencies that kind of offer classes and trainings and programs. You know, we'll do that, and try to, you know, just provide that educational piece to be able to know how to move. You know, there are a lot of things and trainings and sessions that people can attend to kind of, you know your rights as a tenant, know what can and, you know, can't be done for you here, and what you are able to do when you're a tenant. So I think in doing that and helping the guys or the families, we are able to, you know, kind of be a crutch, you know, support while they go through this, and maybe answer some questions that, you know, they may not fully understand, or help them along that way.
And so then when people actually move out, you all allow them to take all of the furnishings and everything that you all have, bought for them.
Yes, and especially in our Breaking New Ground, our family housing, we work with an organization called Humble Design. They do fantastic work, beautiful work, and I know they've worked with different agencies, and they come in and they furnish it, and we're actually working with them now to furnish this house for this family. We're helping exit homelessness, and they're going to design furnish the unit with that family in mind. And that is, you know, it's amazing, because sometimes you have nothing. If you're coming from out, you lose a lot of stuff if you're evicted. So this kind of gives them a new chapter. It makes them feel good and they feel inspired, and it's one less thing on them. And so that is pretty awesome, because you maybe have nothing and this gives you something. And just seeing the looks on their faces when they walk into that unit is amazing. It is really a blessing.
Okay, so we've talked about the work that you do for Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries. Talk about your background. How did you get into doing this work, right? Because it really takes someone with a passion and a patience and the understanding to do this over a long period of time, right?
Yes.
And so one thing I like to bring out on, the show is this is like people's passion. And so when people are doing their passion, they don't get burned out and run down, in the same way when you're, just working a job because you got to make a living.
Yes, you're right. I actually was in the financial world for 12 years, retirement planning, personal investments. And right before COVID, I was just like, I really want to tap into my passion. My passion was always to help people. I never knew how exactly, but I knew I needed to be doing something more to give back. And stayed at my job because I was going to leave. Ended up leaving somewhere in the middle of COVID, and I started as a monitor with Lutheran Metropolitan. And I worked specifically in our family overflow shelter. So I worked with families and children where we're providing meals. We have like trainings, classes. We talk to the moms, and then they have case managers come in that assist them with programs and getting them signed up for things that they need. And it really was nice to connect with these moms, because you could tell that some of them just needed someone to talk to. They had been through, their own personal trauma of the system, trauma of life. And I think coming to us, they felt supported, and that was big for them. Again, being a mom with a new baby or 3 babies, we're providing a home. So I really enjoyed my time there, and it was really great. And I got to transition from the overflow shelter to our hotels, and that's where I worked with single men and women. And it was, low barrier, but we had still the same people. Our partners are coming out to our sites. They are, meeting with our guys and our ladies and trying to get them back on their feet and, help them kind of manage through this COVID crisis that we had. So it was really nice. I learned a lot. That's how I learned about, our clients being resilient, that, everybody has a different story. And that really sometimes people are just looking for someone to talk to, someone to listen to them. I know I've had several people kind of, just thank you for listening, just giving me some time. What you're doing, it matters. And so I think for me, this is my giving back. I am passionate about this. You can't really teach this, and you don't take it for granted. And so I know for myself, they, for everything that I give them, they give me so much more. I am, I'm very grateful, and I don't take this for granted, but I think it's what keeps me going, because all of what we are doing is, for them, to help them and get them where they need to be.
Right.
And just really being a helping hand. It's having that environment and that support that really helps, them to believe, okay, I know I had a bad situation over here, or I experienced someone that wasn't so kind, but I know that there is good out there. And I know that if I can find good here, I can keep going. It's very motivating.
Yeah. And that's so interesting, the descriptions, the way that you said a lot of that, like you say, is who you're helping is the actual client, is the one actually benefiting from the service. Versus it's your job, you get paid to do your job, and that's kind of it. Like you're saying, versus if, in the finance world, it's like, I've got to make this happen because I got to get this fee that goes to the company, and I get a part of the fee. And so, like you say, to have, but it'll be interesting to me to see, there's just so many things going on. And if this homelessness issue, to just read some of the city ordinances and state laws, and if people even really, like I said, listen to some of these court cases, it's like when I went to traffic court and they, you listen, I'll never forget years ago when I got my first ticket as a teenager, my uncle said, whatever you do, don't plead guilty. So I said, okay. So I go in there, well, this is years later, and everybody's no contest, no contest. And I said, I'm sure the system loves this, whatever this no contest is. What is this, right? No contest. And now that's the same with the homelessness. I mean, you look at this, and I mean, these people just have no empathy whatsoever. Like, well, so what? They sleep in the parking lot. We don't want them in the parking lot. It's like, what do we do with them though?
And that's the toughest part, because I think where I started as a monitor, I'm in the trenches. I'm working with these families and these individuals, and I kind of see their struggle. And if you listen to some of their stories and you hear about even, our out of state visitors, they're told they come here because they have heard like Ohio's really great. I can, definitely find housing. You guys have your finger on the pulse. And so they appreciate that. And then you hear the stories of what is going on where they're in. I'm on a waiting list to even get in the shelter. I'm on a waiting list to have, be able to speak to someone about being on a waiting list. And you're in the meantime sleeping in the park with your baby. And I think having that experience to where I am now, I think that's what makes me, want to push and go harder and advocate even much, more than I was then, because I do know a little bit, having that background and understanding some of the things that they're going through and some of the struggles that they face, and like really just wanting not for, them having to go through that again. I don't want to have you kind of experience some of the stuff that you've already experienced, and we can kind of cut that out. But there is, just a coldness in it, and that, that's why it's important that we're building relationships with landlords to like let them know. We want to ease some of those fears. Yes, you may have had a bad experience, but that doesn't always have to be the case. And so it is a constant, like, ongoing struggle to, keep, the face of, you don't really understand homelessness. It doesn't have a face. And so I think that's why we do what we do, to be able to change that narrative every day, to really have our clients just understand that there is somebody there for you. Not everybody is against you. It won't be easy, but, this is what we're doing. Yeah.
Well, I always tell people that organizations like yours, I thank you all, because whether or not people think so, it helps all of us.
Oh, absolutely.
Having people, get treatment for, health services, that helps all of us. Having, an educated society, that helps all of us. Having people who have a safe, warm place to go, that helps all of us.
Yes.
One last thing about your background, you became licensed.
Yes.
So talk about that. What did that involve, and how did that? Why did you decide to do that?
So I am a licensed housing inspector, housing quality standard inspector, and with that license, I've had almost a year now. I am able to go and do a walk through a unit, and ensure that the unit meets the HUD guidelines of safety for a person to move into a unit, which is usually part of the inspection process when you have a subsidy. So it works with our master leasing, because I can do a walkthrough with the unit. I know that a unit can pass an inspection, or if there are things that need to be addressed before they have that official inspection, we can do that. And so that license, it kind of helps speed that process up.
And have it in time.
Absolutely. And make sure that, wherever a family is moving is safe, because there are situations where there is, they're moving into a place where there may be a gas leak, there may be a water issue, electrical issue. So with, having myself be licensed, and we are working on getting a few of our other partners, staff partners, licensed, it helps this process and speeds it up so that people can get out of shelter. There is like a 45-day processing time for, or inspection time for some places. And so if we are able to kind of cut that down, that again speeds this process up, because once you move a family out, somebody comes off the waiting list, and then they can get in and start their process. So it's just a cycle of that. And the license, it helps. I've had people reach out, kind of walk through or have questions, and we are also able to give the landlord enough time, so they're not rushing to get this work done with little to no lead time. And so I think that is, it's a blessing. I can use it, to help other agencies if they need. And it kind of just opens that door. So the license it's been very nice, and I'm very grateful to have gotten it. And to be able to, go through a unit and know it's safe, not just for those I serve, but for anyone really. So,
well, again, this is why I created the show, because as I do freelance journalism and writing, I meet so many people doing so many great things within organizations as entrepreneurs, just in their individual capacity. And it's just not talked about enough. And people assume that the stuff isn't being done, and that nobody's doing anything and no one cares. And there are lots of organizations doing things, and they are being filled more and more each day with people who have a passion to do these things, and that allows the organization to do like you all are doing. Come up with, when you have people that have a passion and an organization that has a mission to help the community, help individuals, help families, it allows them to do more, because you do like you did. Go get a license to be a housing inspector. Absolutely. And I know what that process means. Yeah. I know the value in that process. Like you say, 45 days, that is a long time.
Yes.
And so what are some of the things that you all are working on now? What that we can expect to see this year, and then in the next 5 years, what are you all thinking about?
So still getting, working on our youth transition in place progress for 18 to 24-year-olds, working to house them, offer wraparound services, and then kind of get them to maintain and sustain their own housing. So that's pretty exciting. Looking at more shared housing options. We're looking at purchasing some more homes so that we can, do that with our guys and kind of just, again, help cut down on the lack of affordable housing out here. I know that we've also just recently kind of started this process of 3D printing here. And there was a news story about a week ago where we kind of talked about our process, and we're entering phase 1 of that and doing our research to kind of do what other people have done, which is build houses using the 3D model and kind of be able to move people in. And then that's really exciting. So and some solar panel houses that we have coming up. We've definitely got our hands in a little bit of everything, but that's a good thing, because we just have a big vision of turning this around and helping people exit and stay out of homelessness.
Well, again, thank you so much for doing all of this, because it helps all of us, and I want to thank you for being on the show, giving me your time to talk about what Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries does. And you all are another example of what the mission statement of Black Anthropy was built off of. Shedding a light on people and organizations and entrepreneurs who are impacting the community by providing knowledge, opportunities, resources, and inspiration. Because I'm sure people feel all of those as they transition from homelessness to having some place to live, to getting back on or getting on a path to being able to take care of themselves. And that's what all of us would want for ourselves, for our family, for our friends, and then that's the kind of neighborhood we would want to see. So thank you so much for being on the show, sharing all of this information. And the last thing is, tell our listeners where they can find Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries on the internet, and if you're in Cleveland.
So please, check out our website, LutheranMetropolitanMinistry.com. Tells you a little bit about all of our programs that we offer, the things that we're working on in the community, which is, very, very exciting. You can also stop at our men's shelter on 2100 Lakeside. We just opened a new wing, so we have more beds available to those in need of a bed. And we're down on Lakeside. We have volunteer opportunities, so feel free to check us out, and hopefully you have a different opinion when you come on in.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and that's going to be it for the first hour of Black Anthropy today. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to one of our great stories.
So feel free to. Latest R&B Legends Music Awards 2024 featuring
featuring LTD and the Intruders. Honoring legends, Uncle Sam, Marvin Foxworth, Half My Home, Doug Patterson, Angel Dustin, or also performances by J.C. Cameron.
Now, how was it?
It's okay.
I told you.
Yeah.
I told you. So once you get to talking about what you do, especially when you have people who do it every day, you know, it's not, you know, it's not the...
No, it's just finding your flow and
Yep.
not getting
Yep.
overwhelmed by it. Would you ever be interested in coming down? I maybe just even taking a
Hello, so we're back here with Black Anthropy, and our second guest is Miss Gabrielle Cooper. She is an art therapist. And thank you so much for being here with us today. And so we have a couple of extra guests who are going to join us this conversation. I'm glad Belinda Dawson, our guest from earlier, chose to stick around with us because the work that they do for homeless people here in Cleveland involves art therapy. And so these are just more forms of therapy that are becoming popular. And so we also have Miss Carly Davenport here, who is a poet, and she's part of a book, Power of Emotional Trauma. Yes. And she wrote, I love how succinctly you did that poem. I mean, I really do. And so that book is very compelling. I love how in that book there's a lot of different short poems and a lot of different long poems. They get it through. And so one thing our guest is going to tell us though, because she has an expertise in what's called talk therapy and art therapy. So I thought this would be a very good conversation to have. And first start out talking about what is art therapy.
So art therapy, something I came up with, a little definition I came up with is utilizing the creative process to help someone cope with the present, heal from the past, and envision their future. So it's using different and various art materials to help someone work through emotional trauma, past issues, current issues, and life challenges. So usually, well, all the time, there is a licensed or board certified. Now we're licensed. So this year we have been able to be licensed, which means that as an art therapist, it's illegal to tell someone you're an art therapist. Before we were just board certified, so now we're licensed, coming up in October. But now with the licensure, we have more say over what we do. So anyway, with an art therapist present, we are able to create a safe space for a client to really release what emotions they've been suppressing. So with the art and how it's connected to the process, the part of the brain that is handles imagery is right next to the part of the brain that handles emotion. So because of that, it allows more emotions to be released while you're creating art. So with that process, the art therapist creates a safe space, just like a therapist would, creates a safe environment for those emotions to be released. So we can use any type of art materials, and different art materials evoke different depths of emotion. So art therapists are trained to know what type of materials will evoke certain emotions. So in the beginning of a session, or say if you're on one-on-one sessions, you wouldn't use something as fluid as paint because that is a very emotional material. So you would use something more hard, like colored pencils, because you're just getting to know a client. Just like there's a step with therapy, there's steps with art therapy too, to improve that relationship and the therapeutic relationship. So with that, people come to art therapists for many reasons, and it could be for trauma, it could be to work through divorce, it could be because they have issues with verbalizing their emotions, so it could be easier for them to express with art. And sometimes it's a lot safer to do that because you can externalize the emotions instead of talk about them.
Okay. And so talk about, because you have experience in education in talk therapy and art therapy. Yes. And so talk about what a person would, be going through, why a person would choose either of those.
It could be because of just knowledge. Some people don't have the knowledge of art therapy. So someone that may have to know that it exists, they may choose that. But because we're trying to get the the profession known, and this is a very helpful thing to, get the profession more out there, especially with the Black community. It could just be simply because they don't know it exists. But say if someone knows that art therapy exists and talk therapy exists, they may choose art therapy because maybe they're artistic to begin with, or maybe because they have more of a struggle expressing themselves verbally.
Right.
And also they could be more interested in just something new. Because art is it can be safer to express what you've gone through. Sometimes when you speak things, it makes it very true. So say you've been through something very traumatic, and when you speak it, it makes it very true, and it's kind of like reliving it. When you put it into like on a paper or ceramics or something, it makes it a little bit safer because there's like a container of like a symbolic container of putting it out instead of verbalizing it, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can see how that can make a difference because, when you talk about it, generally that's what happens. People, cry when they start talking about an experience that they had, or they get more emotional, and I can see how it almost, you're almost just internalizing it even more because you're almost like reliving it. And this is someone who has no experience on what art therapy is, but I can see how if you're using something to create something, it just takes you to another place, and you're not thinking about that so much. And so when you all use art therapy uses the creative process. What happens when, I would imagine people say, well, I'm not an artist, I'm not artistic, I don't know how to draw or, paint. What do you all, I'm sure you all get that a lot.
Yeah, we get that a lot. Every art therapist or intern has heard that several times, probably daily. But we say, well, something I say I usually do a lot of community work or workshops. So say if it's like a one-off type of thing like that, I walk into the group and I introduce myself and everything. But then I get into that. I call it out immediately. And I just tell them you don't need any type of experience to do this. You can do this if you've never picked up any type of material. But then I tell them that, I help them think about where that first came from. So I say, I think somewhere along the lines, when we were children, we were all very creative. And, maybe we didn't draw a face exactly how it looked, or maybe our mom didn't hang up our art on the fridge or something like that, or maybe we got an F because we didn't do the art just like the teacher said. When we all have different artistic styles, so our art wasn't encouraged or honored, and it was, our creativity was probably it was hampered in some way, shape, or form. So I invite the group I'm working with, or the person I'm working with, to try to let that go during the session. I invite them to really just explore and have fun with the art and the materials instead of really worrying about what the product looks like.
Okay, and again, who would have really thought about these things, that using different, things to be creative. And so how does that, using the creative process as your therapy, and like you say, I wonder how many people would, and what do, well, to some extent, because this is still covered by patient privilege, and so you can't talk about it too much, but sometimes people are children, because if they're autistic, their parents bring them in, and so then and they can't, and that's an example of when they can't really express what they're saying, and so the parent is the one bringing the child in, and so your client though is the child or the autistic person. So you all also do a lot of community art therapy, which is something that you really like, and that's really what your passion is. So talk about the different community groups that groups of people in different communities that you work with, that you enjoy working with?
So I have always wanted to provide art therapy free of charge for people. Well, like some way for me to still get paid, right? So there's things I've done without getting paid, right? But I have to make a living too. But I've always wanted to provide for communities just free art therapy because I understand that therapy can be really challenging to get access to and to afford and different things like that. So it's always been my passion to just make it free for whoever I'm working with. But that's why it's community art therapy is just my love. But I've done things just with like the Black community, a group called Ghetto Therapy. I've just done some art. Oh, you know that?
He's been on there, yes.
Oh,
Walter Patton,
yes.
And he's always posting on Instagram daily.
Yeah.
He posts a lot,
Yeah. So I've done some art.
I tagged him for the show.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. Yeah, I tagged him.
Cool. Yeah, he's cool. So I've done some art therapy groups, community based, with him. I've done some several. I think I've been doing it for about a year now. Every quarter, I do 3 workshops with the Gathering Places to people who have been touched by cancer. I have done. There was a block party for a artistic movement called Front a couple years ago downtown, and the block party is just like there's music and everything. So sometimes I'm a vendor, and people have the choice to come up to me and at my table and just do art, and then we call it like a make and take, which is they make it right there and then they just take it. So I've done a lot of those. I was just at the homeless stand down at the, what building is that? I'm not from here. I forget what building it is. Yeah, I don't know. But it was the homeless stand down, and do you know?
Yep. Actually, we were just talking about
okay.
it.
Oh, you were? Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
I was coming to her next. As soon as you brought up homeless, I was coming to Belinda next.
Definitely. Those are some of the things that I have done. Some of the populations that I also do a community-based but sessions at the LGBT Center weekly every Monday. So I'll be going there this evening. What else have I done? I did some after-school programming at the East 131st branch with the kids there for a couple years while I was an intern, and then I got hired, and then I started continuing to do that. I love my kids there. What else? There's just been things here and there. Some companies contract and like hire out for their staff to have experiences say their staff may be overworked or something, they'll hire, an art therapist or me to come out and just have a relaxing art therapy session for them, or teach stress management. I went to Cleveland Hillel the past couple weeks to help the Jewish students there with relaxation with clay and stress management with them during school and everything. Yeah, that's what I can think of right now. That's what's coming to mind.
Okay. So Belinda, she's working with the homeless, and that's one thing that, again, Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries does is, you were talking about that, the services that you all provide. Talk about the art therapy, and how did you all come across, deciding to do that?
So we've done it for a while. We've had interns. They kind of do their internship with us, and they'll sit down in our cafeteria. They come. Same thing with markers. We have like an art bucket, if you will, and we'll kind of give them that, and the guys sit and they have conversation. We have a clinician who's on staff who works with the art therapist while they're there, and kind of just the feedback and everything. But it really gets the guys to open up, and they do tell their stories, and we have some really artistic guys down there. That is the one thing that has come out of, like, when I even I'm walking through, and I'm just blown away by this time that they have where they're opening up and they're talking, and maybe they haven't been as talkative with staff. This is something that is helping them really kind of open up and build a rapport with someone, and it's been helpful in helping us maybe even break through to talk to a client. And it's an amazing program. My supervisor, that is her background is art therapy. It's something she's very passionate about. And so I know that we still have a volunteer that comes in. She did her internship and she comes in, and it's still like really nice, and the guys really do take to it. I actually miss it when we don't have someone that's there. So
that reminds me of like when you were talking about how that has helped them open up more than some talking, like art can be a mode and a method to focus on. Like when you're having a general conversation, people can get nervous, eye contact can be an issue, people may not be as open to just sitting down and just having a general conversation.
Yep.
But when you have something to focus on, you can focus on the art and kind of just, you don't have to look at a person, you can just talk, and sometimes things will come out as you're creating. So that's a great point.
And so then Carly, at first blush you may think of poetry as talk therapy, but writing is artistic.
It absolutely is.
And so you're expressing your emotion through letters, through written words, rather than through spoken word, which most people, you traditionally think of therapy as. So talk about, for you, where's your book at, that you're a part of, that being a part of this unbelievable book, Power of Emotional Trauma. Power over emotional trauma. And I mean, this book is so unbelievable. Listening to all of the writers express through words the trauma that they were experiencing, and how writing and the inspiration. Talk about, first of all, how you even came to be a part of it, again, during a traumatic experience for the entire world.
Okay, so I don't remember how I got the link. Miss Honey Belvade was doing a online workshop that included art therapy. And I was like, you know what? I do the motivational speaking and life coaching. Let me jump in this group and just see what they're doing, So I registered and I went and grabbed my swag bag that she put together for us. And it had the paint brushes and the paint and canvas, a couple of other things, her honey, in there, and went to get ready. So we got our Zoom links. It was over Zoom, and it was during the time of COVID when we first hit the shutdown. And so you just don't know how many people are going to show up, and it was a jam-packed Zoom. And so many different stories. People were on there from Australia, Africa. It was just a wide reach of women, and some men joined in that shared their stories, and we had break sessions with the music, and it was just an amazing experience. And during this poetic movement, she said, hey, I'm going to write this book, and I want to know if you guys are interested in just writing a poem and send it to me. It may have an opportunity to be entered into this book I'm doing. I'm just creating this book, and I want you guys to be a part of it. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm not a poet. I used to write a lot as a kid, and I kind of journal my day to day, but I don't consider myself a poet. I can be poetic sometimes, but I don't consider myself a poet. And I was like, but I want to submit something. And I was just sitting there one day, and I was like, my poem just fell in my spirit. It was one of those things that was like paying tribute to where I've come from and into where I am today. And I called it She Wore Pink, and she retitled it Hidden, which is very fitting for what it was. So yesterday we did a book signing and a beautiful celebration, and she was there with a lot of other poets, and the room was such a distinguished room. Coffee said she came out to see me, so thank you for supporting me.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for being
you
a part
learn
of
so
that.
much going to events like this. Just being one thing. My mentor in journalism he told me from the beginning. He said, "You're good because you're naturally inquisitive." So that's why I started the show, because again, we have our perceptions about listening to homelessness and all of these things, but then to bring you in and to talk about it, and then you learn so much more. Art therapy, you see this art therapy, I got no clue what it is, but then to bring an expert in, because again, the whole vision for the show is to let people tell their own story. Stop trying to live by these broad, general definitions of things. And that's why, I always start out, you tell me what art therapy is. because it should be okay for people to recognize that. Even with what you all are saying, we didn't really plan to have you all here connect with this with Gabrielle today, but it's showing that all of these stigmas are being pushed to the side because community is more important, and people learning about other people, what other people are experiencing, and supporting that is becoming, to me, so much more important. And people, it's like they like to used to try to keep a cap on everything because of, like you said, well, I still need to make a living. And then, but something my mother taught me growing up, she said, the more you have, the more you want, or the more you need. And so, like you said, I love doing the community stuff. I got to get paid, but I need to get paid to make a living, but still. And so to listen and, I mean, just think, what, 5 years ago, definitely 10, definitely 15, 20 years ago, it is no way you all would have shared that individually, this therapy that, you're going through. But it's showing that how, so I'm there because I love learning. You know, my time is thin, and with me starting the show, a big thing that my goal is, and it's been working on my mind for a couple of years, is all of these organizations that I have on to have a closer connection to what you all are actually doing and coming out and seeing that. Because again, we just don't have enough of that. We have all of this bad, worst case scenario, everyday stuff out there. Now, coming back to you, Gabrielle, the thing that I like, you say you do the youth, you go into schools, you in the neighborhoods, the autism, and all of this. To me, these are things people will never forget. Just like your poem, it's based off of being a kid, and a lot of people yesterday that spoke. Again, what they wrote is based off being a kid. So when I listen to you talk, I think like, wow, these are going to be conversations in the community that didn't used to be. You're going to have kids remember, okay, let me get, if they're stressed out, they can just start an art project or something like that. And so talk about, how you have seen art therapy, evolve, and, kind of where you see it going. Because to me, these stigmas are really being broken down. I mean, listening to Belinda talk about, you're the professional, so talk about where you see, art therapy, going in the next 5-10 years.
I see it with licensure, and us getting licensure is going to open up a lot of doors for us. I see us being able to have our own agencies just based off of art therapy. More of those. There's some, but more of those, because counseling can have like just a mental health counseling agency or organization, and that's all they do there. But I see more of us having just art therapy based organizations and agencies where people can just come to get just art therapy. I see a lot more people coming into the profession now that it's always been legit, but now that we have licensure, it kind of garners like more respect, because a lot of times we go into like maybe a hospital and there's a care team, and like we're not always respected with along with like another mental health profession, a lot of times because other people don't know what we really do and they don't see the power in the healing process. But I see more respect coming to the profession. I see a lot of more people being able to do like participate in the profession and get healing from art therapy, and probably more, probably it being in more, what am I trying to say? More avenues, like just everywhere. More avenues, more community, right? The homeless, over here. So more popular is what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. More popular, and I also see people in high school knowing more about it, more knowledge about the profession. People in high school learning more about it, which is leading them to pursue it in college, which is leading them to pursue it in masters. So we're having more diverse art therapists,
which
people,
is important.
very important. People of different backgrounds, ethnicities, orientations, genders, anything. So a much more diverse art therapy profession as well, which is what we really need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, Carly, you were saying yesterday, coming out to the event and, just, sitting there listening to all of the women. It's almost like listening to the stories or listen to them read their own poems. You're drawing your own, visual of how they healed themselves even as you listen to that. And so, being there yesterday and your poem, being selected for the book, and then you also shared that with your children because they were there as well.
Absolutely, they should be a part. I believe it's important for your children to see you along your journey. They see your journey anyway. Why not let them watch you be celebrated in your journey so they can understand like the work that you put in is not just the hard labor at home, but people celebrate each other. This is the way it's done.
Yeah.
And for them to see a bunch of women in the room that literally loved on each other and they loved on each other's poems and they got a chance to celebrate their journeys. That was important for me, for them to see it too. And the people that were in the room enjoyed the fact that those young people were in the room.
They did.
And so I honor that type of setting. And I told them, we have something next week, you guys. You got to get dressed up for it. So they're excited. They get to celebrate with me.
And so, Belinda, how long have you all been doing the art therapy at LMM? And again, when people first hear therapy, especially if you have older people, it's like, the stigma is there. Mm-hmm. And then talk about how just being there, like you say, when you all have it in that common space, and more people come in, and more people participate.
Oh, absolutely. So I know over 7 years, that's how my supervisor started there.
Wow.
And so saw a need and wanted to keep, having that avenue available to the guys. She pushed for us to get an intern and kind of have someone come in, and it's been a really nice project. I'm sure we're going to, as our clinical department grows, we're going to open that up more, because it is, again, just another avenue to be able to, especially with the youth, and we do have a lot of youth, and with our youth program coming up, tap into things and start a healing journey, because some of those traumas are also what are blocking them from being able to find sustainable housing. So, being able to tell that story and paint that picture with the art therapist, and then our clinician being able to better assist our guys is just, again, another, process in their journey to help them be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's always about that. And we also offer Poetry Wednesdays. It went away for the summer, and then now it's back, and or for the winter, and now it's back. And again, another avenue for our guys to express themselves and tell their stories. I've sat in a couple, just like the same thing. It's just a way of opening up and helping build a rapport. They kind of let their guard down, and that is important. And once they are able to, connect, sometimes that's the difference in being able to help them exit the shelter. So, I know that we are actively, again, trying to keep that program going. And as we get people, we always have them come in and then talk to our clinician, talk to our guys, volunteer if they're interested. It is really important, and there's a need to be able to heal, and however that looks for us. And therapy is a way to really open up, especially in our community. Mm-hmm. We know how important it is, and the stigma that's attached with us, going into therapy. So this, it will become more mainstream, I believe. Our therapy is definitely going to take over, because you're going to start to see it, even with the youth, maybe a way to kind of curb some of those things that they go through, and help them heal from their childhood trauma, so that they can be a member of society, that is able to function within the confines of this world.
Well, and one thing I think about in listening to you, Belinda and Carly, is sort of what, again, I wouldn't have thought of this if I hadn't, come across Gabrielle, is they can participate because from a kid,
you always did these things, and you start out doing them and you don't think about it, and like you say, until someone says it's not worthy for X reason or whatever. And so, like you say, yeah, when people, you know, you put art and paper and stuff there, yeah, it makes people. I think it seems to me that it draws people back to their youth and their. You know, they can draw something. It may not be what you do or whatever, but that's just one of those simple, easy things that people can do. One thing I would like for you to talk about, Gabrielle, is sort of this connection of art therapy with therapy that we're used to hearing about and thinking about in these terms specifically, like, you know, the art therapy or the talk therapy. Therapy in general should be, you know, bringing you calm or putting you in situations where you're thinking about calmness and mindfulness and de-stressing and, you know, um, a big thing is breathing. So talk about some of these terms and how they help the person heal.
So going off of breathing, that's part of mindfulness, like you said. And you know, you can have like, and we call them art interventions or art tasks. You can have an art task that's focused on relaxation or calming or de-stressing, and you can invite the person to really focus on their breathing while they're creating. And what that does, or in talk therapy too, if you're focusing on your breathing or in any situation in life, it keeps you in the present moment. So it brings, once you're focusing on something in the present, you're in the present moment, because anxiety or depression can have you thinking about the future, thinking about the past, or just thoughts. You know, you overthinking, you could be thinking about any other thing, but breathing and focusing on your breathing can keep you in the present. And can you repeat the question a little?
Oh, just connect, you know, how, you know, doing these different things, breathing and trying to create calm and having positive thoughts and vibes, how that helps, why you all are trying to concentrate, what people are doing, it's actually trying to get them to do those things so that they heal.
Right. So those things are connected to healing, because if thinking about, it's kind of like if you have negative thoughts all the time, that's kind of what you're going to feel and think. So if we're focusing on positive thoughts, or we're focusing on like breathing, or different things that we want to focus on that will take us to the next level and maybe help us evolve, we're focusing on those things to reduce other things like the negative thoughts. So we're inviting positive thoughts. Something I do that I've done with people who have like negative self-talk. It's just something really simple, just on a piece of paper. We write down a couple negative self-talk phrases that they have, and then next to it I have them, and I assist them if they need help with coming up with things to replace it with. So they have this paper, and then they create just like a little poster of the positive self-talk phrases. So they have these things to replace the negative ones with. So it's a process of learning how to change behavior. So I try to tell my clients that you're going to slip back a little bit. You know what I mean? You're going to it's not even slipping back, it's just like a sidestep. So if we're thinking about healing and just the journey going straight forward, and you know, say someone does an activity, a behavior or a habit that they were trying to get away from, it's just a sidestep. It's not going backwards, because you still have the knowledge and the knowledge that you learned to move forward. So you're not backwards, because you know that means you unlearned something which you didn't. So healing and learning new things, it's a process. And it's just like if you're in a forest, I have all these analogies. If you're in a forest and you're trying,
you need them, right?
Right.
You gotta resonate with people some kind of way. You can't have one way.
Say you're in a forest and you're trying to learn new coping skills, and you have a path that you've always been doing these same coping skills, and it's worn down because you've always been using that same coping skill. If you're trying to create a new coping skill or learn something new, you have to turn to the side and with like some type of sickle or hatchet just hack down, you know, the trees and everything, and that gets tiring. So you're going to go back to the same coping skill. But over time, you're going to continue to try to hack down these trees and these bushes and create a new coping skill path. So that's why it can be hard to change, because you have to force yourself to continue to choose. You literally have a choice now to choose the new way. So that's kind of what I say about like choosing mindfulness, or when you're angry, taking a second to breathe. You have to learn to breathe and practice these skills when you're not in crisis. Because when you're in crisis mode and you're, you know, super anxious or you're having a panic attack, you're not thinking about what can I do to help me. You know, you're in fight, fright, freeze, or fawn mode. So you're all over the place. Everything goes out the window. But if you're practicing the coping skills when you're not in crisis mode, you have like your brain has easier access to them when you're struggling. So
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah, oh yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
And so again, you know, because people hear those things all of the time. You know, I have a stone, and I got it because of golf. And one thing I watch a lot of golf. I'm a golf junkie, and one thing you notice with the golfers, especially if they're in a stressful situation, and particularly over putting, they take a deep breath. You know, when you watch guys play, the pros play basketball, and they're taking a free throw, they bounce the ball, and then they take a deep breath. You know, and so when I first started golfing, and here in Cleveland or in Ohio, we, you know, don't golf in the winter time, I would read books on it. And that was one of the biggest things that they talked about, is the breathing and how to use breathing for that. And so I forget where I was at, and I found a little stone, and it says breathe. And so I come in my house through the garage, and right there on the counter, the first thing you see is the little stone that says breathe. And I put it there, so throughout the day as I'm always seeing that, you know, breathe. You know, and so I just think that we hear these things a lot. And if you go to a therapy session, you're here to do these things, but you don't really connect why you're doing them. You know, and I really like the way you explained it, that you have to practice doing these things when you're not in crisis mode. And again, that also explains, like with children, you know, starting out with youth, and because when you learn these things when you're younger, you recognize, let me do some art therapy or something, or let me write out what my thoughts and emotions are. That's one thing she did yesterday. She wrote a letter to her father when she was 8, and then she was 20. You know, and so again, that youthfulness, and not in recognizing as a young person, okay, I need to get this out. You know, and you know, with a lot of the stress and economic stress going on in the country and the world, that's one reason I want to ask you about these different terms, because I read a lot of stories, and people are saying, you know, it's only so much breathing I can do. It's only so much, you know, refreshing I can do. It's only so much, you know, having positive thoughts. But to understand the whole reason for even doing them. So that's why, you know, I asked you to bring those out, because even Belinda, you even brought that out, like how it helps those people there. And then over time, to me, one thing I've learned is people start to look forward to that.
Yeah.
You know, they start, you know, at that center, they're going to start looking for, you know, where the pencils and the pens. And, you know, I go to the library a lot, and I don't know if maybe I just sat in a different location, and it was a table with paper, and I don't know, 20, 30 different colored pencils. And I just wrote with all of the colored pencils until I done it, you know, the lead and them, you know. And so when you all talk about this, like you say, the bag that you got, for her to put that in there, to bring out that artist in you, you know, like you say, the different materials that you use. And so we heard Belinda kind of talk about how art therapy started at LMM. We've heard Carly talk about, you know, how she ends up getting this link, and she got into writing and telling, you know, talking about some of her childhood experiences. Talk about what led you to doing art therapy.
Okay. Well, I was in high school. I was 16 years old, and I knew I wanted to go to college. So I had always been into art. When I was 2, I used to draw on the walls, and my mom would make me clean it off, but I would do it all over again. I did not care about the consequences. I just loved creating. So I've always had like a creative bone. So yeah, I was 16, and I was just online Googling, you know, something professions that incorporate art. And I came across art therapy, so I decided to do that. And I realized at the time that what I thought at the time therapy was like giving advice. That's not what it is at all. But I learned that's not what it is.
Yep.
But at my age, I was, pretty good at just talking to people, and friends would come to me for advice. So I thought, I'm combining two things that I'm already good at. So I said that this would be perfect. So I went to Kent State University and got a bachelor's and lined up my classes with what Ursuline College wanted, and that's where I got my master's to be an art therapist. So I just lined up everything so I could get in, and then I got in to Ursuline, went 3 full years, year round there, and then I graduated, and I'm just doing what I love now. So
Yeah, I hear you. And again, that's a whole, there's a lot of different angles from Black Anthropy that I want brought out. All of you all have contributed to me writing the mission, the journalism, and meeting so many people that I have over the last 4 5 years. Again, that mission, shining a light on people, organizations, and entrepreneurs who are impacting the lives of community, people, and individuals by providing knowledge, resources, opportunities, and inspiration. And that's exactly what you're doing, providing knowledge about what art therapy is. These are the resources, that you can use to engage with art therapy. We've talked about that, all of us. It's an opportunity for people to say, we've kind of demonstrated, or you all have demonstrated, that this is an opportunity for people to get rid of the stigma around getting some kind of therapy. Lots of people are doing it. It is helpful, it's beneficial, and it is a way to get you through something and or be able to deal with it as you're going through it. And then all of you are just such an inspiration, right? To dedicate your life to art therapy, to helping other people cope with, manage, and deal with stress and get to the other side. And that'll be something that they'll have for the rest of their life. They'll be able to show other people how to do it. The same with you, Belinda. The more knowledge you all have, having a finance background, going to help people with housing, being humble to say, I come from this, finance background, but to dedicate, like you say, pulling that passion out to help other people, and then being able to go get a license to provide even more service to the community, and then Carly, being able to tell your story, write your story. And like you say, how many people really think of that? Yeah, your kids see you, but you take them because you have to, or you want to, or need to. But how many people really think about, I'm bringing them so that they can see my journey as well, and see that it's not just me living this. And so if you don't mind, if you can close us out. We have a poem, we have art therapy. Poetry is artistic, and this was a very, at least to Honey Bay, a very therapeutic poem that you wrote.
Yes.
I mean, I love how sweet it and I love words.
Thank you.
I love words.
Thank you.
Like people love music, for different. I love listening to the words that people are saying. So you can close us out and read your poem for us.
Okay. I have to say she started with my name. My new brand, Fell in Love with Carly, by Carly Davenport, and she called it The Hidden. She wore pink. Her room is pink. Her shoes are pink. Everything is pink. But her heart is black. Black from all the pain she has hidden, the lies she was forced to bear. Yet she smiles. She keeps that smile on her face so that she won't drop a tear, remembering that she wore pink.
And how do you not get an artistic vision of that, listening to that? She wore pink, your heart is black, So Gabrielle, I'll give you the last word. Tell us where people can find you as an art therapist, and
what work you'll be doing this summer and for the next year or two.
Okay, as an art therapist, I'm on Instagram at Gabrielle.Cooper. Cooper is with 2 zeros instead of O's. For the next year, I'll still be working with the Gathering Place, still be working with in community settings. So the Gathering Place, Ghetto Therapy. What else do I have planned? I'll still be at the LGBT Center. A lot of just community work, the same things I mentioned. Workshops over the summer that are either they're usually closed, so they can't you can't come in unless you're part of the company. So I'll be doing those types of things. But yeah, it's the same things and maybe some new. Who knows?
All right, all right. Well, thank each of you for sitting in. Thank you, Belinda, for sharing what LMM is doing with art therapy. Thank you, Carly, for being on here with me and talking about this issue with us. And Gabrielle, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the work that you're doing and the way you're really spreading art therapy to broad swath of the community and making it something that is not stigmatized and people gravitate to study and to use to heal.
Definitely.
All right, thank you so much.
I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Black Anthropy on the station where we don't bring no static, but we sure enough bring the noise on staticradio.net. Make sure you guys check us out on social media where we absolutely love to hear from you on facebook.com/No Static Radio or at No Static Radio. On Instagram at _No Static Radio. On X, formerly known as YouTube, at No Static _Radio. On YouTube at No Static Radio. And Discover.TV at No Static Radio. Also, if you guys like to make donations to small businesses and some of the shows here, we are $No Static Radio on Cash App as well. Also, if you like to listen to replays of this show and others, check us out on Mixer, Mixcloud.com. Just type in No Static Radio in the toolbar for replays of this show and all others, and for continuous streaming. That means no interruptions. You just sit back, relax, and let it do its thing. And you can check that out and us out on TuneIn.com, live on MyRadio.net or MediaQ for continuous streaming uninterrupted of all these shows and are just all around 24-hour play of music, talk, and a whole lot more. So thank you guys once again for tuning in to your Voice of the Revolution of StaticRadio.net. And stay tuned, coming up at 2 p.m. We've got the Hustle and Wax Show. So stay tuned. We got more to come. Coming up next.